Marshall Peak, Chapter 5867, Departure, Marshall Peak. I'll be leaving first, Yang Kai informed Mi Jinglun. After picking out 2 Void Guards, the 3 of them immediately traveled in the direction of the no-return pass. According to the original plan, Yang Kai was also supposed to prepare some space arrays. It was just that he was responsible for preparing the space arrays that connected the exit of the passage to the no-return pass instead. The exit of the secret passage was located in the Blue Sky Theater, within the territory occupied by the Black Ink clan back then. Although the distance between this place and the no-return pass was not as great as the Primordial Heavens Source Grand Restriction, it could not be considered short either. With the human race army's current enormous lineup, they would need to spend at least 2 years to arrive at the no-return pass without the help of the space array, which was an unacceptable delay. Now that the Black Ink clan's scouts in the vicinity had been removed, it would not take long for the enemy to learn about the human race's attack. Speed was crucial under these circumstances. Naturally, it was better for the human race army to attack as soon as possible. After Yang Kai departed, the remaining Void Guards began to prepare the first space array that would be located here. Setting up the space array was not a difficult task because all the space arrays had been prepared beforehand and transported in the universe temples that had been collected previously. Hence, the Void Guard simply had to search for a suitable location, place the universe temple in position, and make some slight adjustments to the space array inside. One of the Void Guards in the 8th Order opened the portal of his small universe. Following his actions, the portal expanded incessantly. It did not take long before a universe temple emerged. Under Mi Jinglun's guidance, he placed the universe temple at a certain spot in the void. Several Void Guards immediately flew into the universe temple to check and calibrate the space array. A short while later, they reported that everything was ready and the space array was in perfect working condition. Thereupon, the human race army finally succeeded in placing their first space array on the Black Ink battlefield. With this space array acting as a connection point, the space arrays laid by Yang Kai in the direction of the no-return pass and the space arrays laid by Li Wuyi in the direction of the Primordial Heavens Source Grand Restriction could easily form a connection with the space array in this place. As such, they would have a direct transportation route from the no-return pass to the Primordial Heavens Source Grand Restriction once they completed their tasks. There would be many transfer points along the way, but that was preferable compared to the long journey that the human race army would have had to make instead. In this way, they could aim straight at the heart of their enemy as soon as they conquered the no-return pass and launch a crusade towards the Primordial Heavens Source Grand Restriction at the fastest speed. Afterwards, a steady stream of soldiers poured out from the exit of the secret passage. Aside from the group of elites who arrived earlier, all those who came later were soldiers with lower cultivation. The current human race was extremely powerful, and their heritage was unprecedentedly rich. Be that as it may, the mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters and low-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters occupied the largest proportion of their strength. In particular, the mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters held the highest numbers. The amount of 4th Order and 5th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters was the highest, exceeding the total number of Open Heaven Realm Masters in the 3rd Order Open Heaven Realm and below. This situation was vastly different from the situation during peaceful times. Before the Black Ink clan invaded the 3,000 worlds, those in the 3rd Order and below had accounted for the majority of the human race. In fact, Yang Kai had encountered many 1st Order and 2nd Order Masters when he first arrived in the 3,000 worlds. On the contrary, hardly any 1st Order or 2nd Order Masters were born among the human race nowadays. Even the weakest Open Heaven Realm Masters advanced directly to the 3rd Order. As for those who came from the 2 Open Heaven Realm Cradles, the Star Boundary and the Myriad Monsters world, the 4th Order was the minimum. There were 2 reasons for this situation. In addition to the feedback from the World Tree clone, the process to obtain resources was also much simpler than before. In the past, most of the lowborn cultivators had neither the ability nor the capital to obtain the resources needed to advance to the Open Heaven Realm. However, they could now redeem these resources from the human race army as long as they had enough military merits to perform an exchange. Strictly speaking, it did not become easier for cultivators to obtain resources. It was simply a more direct method of resource acquisition that had not been available to those who were born from humble backgrounds before. Back when the Great Passes were in conflict with the Black Ink clan on the Black Ink battlefield, the minimum requirement to enter the Black Ink battlefield was the Sixth Order. After all, those below the Sixth Order were completely helpless against the corruption of Black Ink's strength. Unlike back then, the human race now had the means to resist Black Ink's strength. Not only did they have purifying light, which could dispel Black Ink strength in a cultivator's small universe, but they also had the purifying Black Ink pills, which could prevent the corruption of Black Ink strength. Thus, the requirements had been reduced by a slight margin. Nevertheless, no matter how much they lowered their requirements, the Fourth Order remained the most basic requirement. Only those in the Fourth Order and above qualified to contribute their strength on the battlefield. Those in the Fourth Order and below would not have much value on the battlefield. In other words, those in the Third Order Open Heaven realm and below did not meet the basic requirements to enter the battlefield. After all, the human race did not have the habit of using those with weaker cultivation as cannon fodder. Even so, Jing Lun did not hesitate to bring along all those who were in the Third Order and below for this crusade. The mission of those in the Third Order and below was not to fight on the battlefield but to mine resources. The human race had been lacking cultivation resources for a long time now. If Yang Kai had not brought back a large amount of materials from the Black Ink clan a couple dozen years ago, the repair of Pyongyang Pass would not have been possible. At the moment though, the human race was practically bankrupt. The demand for various resources would only increase exponentially once the war at the No-Return Pass broke out. Not to mention that resources were required each time they transported the army via the space arrays. Seeing as the entire human race army would need to be transported to the primordial heavens source grand restriction in the near future, there was no doubt that the consumption of resources would soar to a shocking level. That was why they had to make preparations in advance. Even if they expected to receive an enormous amount of resources once they conquered the No-Return Pass, that would only come after they succeeded in their crusade. The 3,000 worlds was an empty shell right now. There was no place left where resources could be sourced from, but the Black Ink battlefield was different. The vast Black Ink battlefield had always been a treasure trove of various cultivation resources due to how expansive it was. Over the years, both the human race and the Black Ink clan had been mining resources in the Black Ink battlefield, and although the Black Ink battlefield was bound to grow barren one day, it was currently enough to meet the needs of the human race. Therefore, the cultivators in the Third Order and below were dispatched here after the elites of the human race army arrived and settled in. These cultivators did not waste any time. As soon as they arrived, they immediately split into small groups and scattered in all directions to search for locations with resources. The dozen or so void guards who remained behind also split up in various directions. Their current task was to construct more universe temples equipped with space arrays at various locations throughout the Black Ink battlefield. This way, the cultivation resources gathered by the others could easily be sent back to the main army. The scene might have seemed frantic and chaotic, but things were actually moving forward in an orderly manner. 2 days later, nearly 3 million Third Order Masters had arrived from Black Territory. That number accounted for almost 10% of the human race army. They swiftly scattered in all directions across the Black Ink battlefield. At this rate, it would not take long before they brought huge and continuous benefits back with them. It was not until this moment that Jing Lun's anxiety finally reduced slightly. Over the years, he had been in charge of the Supreme Headquarters. He was responsible for coordinating and dispatching the human race army, so the supply of resources had also been a huge headache for him. Nevertheless, there was nothing he could do to solve this problem until the human race army set off for the Black Ink battlefield. At this point, the Black Ink battlefield was no longer the Black Ink clan's backyard. It belonged to the human race. The human race army was attacking, and the Black Ink clan could do nothing to stop them except defend the No-Return Pass. The situation at this moment was very similar to the Black Ink clan's previous assault on the No-Return Pass. It was just that the offense and defense had been reversed. At this moment, a figure flew out of the universe temple that had just been set up. He came straight to Jing Lun and cupped his fist in greeting. "Supreme Commander Mi, we have established a connection with the first space array leading to the No-Return Pass." Jing Lun nodded lightly, understood. Although he seemed calm and collected on the surface, he was secretly amazed by the news. Yang Kai was very fast indeed. No news came from Li Wuyi, who had departed earlier. On the other hand, Yang Kai had already finished placing his first space array. Thinking about it again though, it was not a surprise. Yang Kai had higher attainments in the Tao of space compared to Li Wuyi in the first place, so it was only natural for him to be much faster. Turning to look at Xiong Shan and the others, Mi Jing Lun issued the order, start making arrangements for the teleportation of the army. Xiong Shan and the others nodded, then left to make the necessary arrangements. Every teleportation that was performed required resources. More importantly, the number of resources consumed was closely related to the number of people being transported. Therefore, in order to reduce consumption, the human race army needed the high-rank open heaven realm masters to accommodate some of their subordinates in their respective small universes in an effort to reduce the number of people being transmitted. These measures would affect the strength of the high-rank open heaven realm masters to a certain extent, but they would not be affected to the extent that they would be completely helpless in the face of danger as long as they were careful about the number of people they took into their small universe. Naturally, it was not a great concern currently since the chance of them being in danger was very minimal. There were many high-rank open heaven realm masters nowadays, so almost every squad had at least 2 or 3 seventh-order masters. Some squads might even have as many as 4 seventh-order masters. This was a situation that would never be seen on the Black Ink battlefield back then. If each squad was considered a unit, then the 7th-order masters were perfectly capable of accommodating all the members of their respective squads inside their small universe. Some of the 7th-order masters could even be accommodated by the 8th-order masters. Under this arrangement, the consumption of resources would be greatly reduced. At the same time, the efficiency of transmission would also be significantly improved. At this moment, the first portion of the human race army to arrive was preparing to teleport to the location of the first universe temple that had been set up. Nevertheless, more troops were streaming in from Black Territory. With both sides rushing forward simultaneously, the human race army was practically unstoppable as they traveled towards the no-return pass in quick leaping motions via the universe temples established along the way. A new space array would be added to the network every 2 days or so, meaning soldiers would have to embark on their next teleportation after only a short respite following their arrival at the previous universe temple. Needless to say, they had to leave some manpower behind to guard and defend the universe temples lest they be damaged or destroyed by any unexpected incidents. This was true for both the space arrays that Yang Kai and Li Wuyi prepared. According to the plan, each universe temple would be protected by a void guard once the space array was activated. It was expected that such high intensity and frequent teleportation would have some impact on the space arrays. If any accidents were to happen, these void guards could immediately step in to maintain and repair the space arrays. Excluding Yang Kai, there were almost 150 void guards, which was just enough for such a task. During this period, they finally received news from Li Wuyi. The first space array had not only been established, but also successfully connected with the space array located in front of the entrance to the secret passage. Half a month later, the entire human race army that had previously gathered in Black Territory arrived without a single member missing, with Wei Junyang, who was in charge of bringing up the rear, arriving last. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5868, Goading the Giant Spirit Gods. Marshall Peak. At this moment, Yang Kai and the 2 void guards who were preparing the space arrays in the direction of the no-return pass were already halfway through their journey. They also left behind 3 universe temples that they deployed along the way. Judging by their speed, the first part of the human race army would reach the periphery of the no-return pass in another half a month. It was not until this moment that the no-return pass realized that something was wrong, but the delay could not be blamed on the Black Ink clan's ignorance. The truth was that Mo Na was already very cautious. After his previous exchange with Yang Kai to probe each other for information several years ago, he confirmed the existence of a secret passage leading between the 3000 worlds and the Black Ink battlefield. Thanks to that piece of information, he immediately realized that the human race would eventually attack the no-return pass through that secret passage. After all, that was the only method for the humans to fully maximize their strengths in the assault. It was far too disadvantageous for them to attack from the territory gate because the Black Ink clan could cause significant casualties to them just by establishing a tight line of defense around the location. Nobody would ever choose to use such a foolish method if there was a better option. Unfortunately, Mo-Na-Yi had been unable to confirm the exact location of the secret passage's exit. That was why he quickly dispatched a large number of Black Ink clan scouts into the Black Ink battlefield following Yang Kai's departure from the no-return pass. His plan had been to search for the secret passage while simultaneously guarding against any possible movements from the human race. Naturally, his main purpose was the latter. As for finding the exit of the secret passage, he did not expect much and simply did his best to achieve results. For this purpose, the Black Ink clan even deliberately produced nearly 10,000 low-rank Black Ink nests for the Black Ink clan search parties to bring along when they ventured deep into the Black Ink battlefield. Yang Kai had eliminated several dozen Black Ink clan squads around the vicinity of the secret passage. Moreover, his movements were so swift that the Black Ink clansmen had no time to react whatsoever. Although Yang Kai managed to prevent the enemy from learning about their presence in the immediate term, the Black Ink clansmen overseeing the nearby low-rank Black Ink nests soon noticed that something was wrong when they failed to make contact with their search teams for the past half a month. Therefore, they followed the instructions they received from Mo-Na-Yi before they were dispatched here and sent word to the no-return pass via the Black Ink nest's base. Upon receiving the message, Mo-Na-Yi immediately realized the problem. It was impossible for the Black Ink clan scouts searching the Black Ink battlefield to disappear for no apparent reason. After all, there were currently no dangers on the Black Ink battlefield. It was understandable if something had happened to one or two teams, as accidents or unexpected delays did still occur, but the fact that dozens of scout teams had gone missing at the same time was self-explanatory. Under the premise that the human race army would launch an assault from the Black Ink battlefield, Mo-Na-Yi would not hold any unrealistic illusions towards the information he received and immediately concluded that the humans were coming. Furthermore, their general direction and distance could now be determined from the location of the lost Black Ink clan scout. With the no-return pass as the starting point and the location of the lost scouts as the end point, Mo-Na-Yi plotted a route and hastily ordered the Black Ink clan scouts along the route to investigate their surroundings carefully and report any sign of abnormalities immediately. The arrival of the human race army came far earlier than he expected, which was extremely bad for him. Mo-Na-Yi's only consolation was that their starting point was extremely distant. Even if the human race army moved at full speed, he estimated they would not be able to reach the no-return pass for at least a year or two, which would give the Black Ink clan some time and space to prepare countermeasures. After he pondered for some time, he hurried to Mo Yu and reported the situation. Then, he discussed some countermeasures. At the same time, he ordered the pseudo-royal lords under his command to continue tempting the two giant spirit gods in the barren territory. When the two Black Ink giant spirit gods escaped into the no-return pass back then, Yang Kai had decisively sealed the territory gate shut. Be that as it may, the Black Ink clan had long since reopened the territory gate. Moreover, the Black Ink clan had never stopped trying to target RDA and RR over the past few years. Mo-Na-Yi knew that these two giant spirit gods were the strongest forces of the human race army. If they could eliminate the two giant spirit gods before the humans arrived, then the enemy would be no match for the Black Ink clan, regardless of how many Ninth Order Masters were born during this period. Among the Black Ink clan nowadays, the number of royal lords could no longer compare to the Ninth Order Masters, and the number of territory lords could no longer compare to the number of Eighth Order Masters. Nevertheless, there were many pseudo-royal lords, so if the humans lost their two giant spirit gods, who were the pillars of their army, how could they prevent the onslaught of the numerous pseudo-royal lords and the two Black Ink giant spirit gods? According to the information that Mo-Na-Yi received from the Black Ink disciples, the giant spirit gods were of a race that did not boast high sentience despite their overwhelming strength. If they could utilize this aspect properly, they might just be able to eliminate those two behemoths without too much trouble. Nonetheless, they had to lure the two giant spirit gods into the no-return pass if they wanted a chance to eradicate them. The no-return pass was the headquarters of the Black Ink clan, with countless masters gathered here in addition to the two Black Ink giant spirit gods. As long as the two giant spirit gods dared to step foot into the no-return pass, they would never leave this place alive again. Provocation was one method, However, no matter how the Black Ink clan tried to taunt them, RDA and RR never forgot Yang Kai's instructions to protect the territory gate before he departed. Their orders were to smash any Black Ink clansmen who tried to pass through the territory gate, nothing more, nothing less. Several pseudo-royal lords were injured as a result. After that, no pseudo-royal lord dared to enter the barren territory at will again. A single slap from the giant spirit gods contained a heaven-destroying and earth-shattering might. Not even a pseudo-royal lord could survive a direct hit. The Black Ink clan did not stop at provocation though, they also employed another method, temptation. The Black Ink disciples who originated from the human race had given Mo-Na-Yi another valuable piece of information. The giant spirit gods fed on dead universe worlds. The 3,000 worlds was now barren and infertile, so the two giant spirit gods had probably been starving for many years now. For that reason, Mo-Na-Yi ordered his men to drag over several dead universes' worlds from the far depths of the Black Ink battlefield to tempt RDA and RR through the territory gate. This plan nearly succeeded. As soon as the bald giant spirit god saw the dead universes' worlds through the territory gate, his drool flowed down his chest like a waterfall. In fact, he nearly charged right into the no-return pass at first sight. If not for the giant spirit god with a tuft of hair on his head who desperately held his clansmen back and ruined the plan, the Black Ink clan could have obliterated one of them on the spot. Back when Mo-Na-Yi first witnessed the scene, he was so furious that he nearly choked on his rage. Now that the pseudo-royal lords received another order from Mo-Na-Yi recently, they immediately looked very distressed. Their confrontation with the giant spirit gods over the past 10 years or so had shown them that the two beings were not easy opponents despite their slow-witted appearances. When the overwhelming power of each giant spirit god surpassed essentially all other living creatures in the universe, their low sentience no longer mattered. Their strength alone was not something that could be ignored. Fortunately, one of the pseudo-royal lords quickly came up with a good idea. He smashed one of the dead universe's worlds nearby to pieces and threw a small universe fragment into the barren territory. The two giant spirit gods happily shared the universe fragment between themselves, then they turned to look at the pseudo-royal lord eagerly through the territory gate. He quickly threw a larger universe fragment to them, and they immediately shared the food again. Then, he threw another larger piece. After repeating the cycle several times, he picked up an enormous universe fragment and pretended to throw it into the barren territory. However, the territory gate was too small for the enormous universe fragment to pass through. He then set down the universe fragment and beckoned towards the two giant spirit gods through the territory gate, as though inviting them over to eat. RDA was tempted, then. Aura smacked his bald head hard several times. The blows made him clutch at his head in pain with an extremely aggrieved expression. His appearance was very pitiful, as though he did not know what he had done wrong. "Stay here and smash them. Don't go there," Aura reminded in a rumbling voice. Even though he was standing in the vast void, his voice still echoed like explosions of thunder. RDA nodded repeatedly, finally recalling the warnings of the little one. Raising his head once more, he glared at the pseudo-royal lord fiercely and shouted, "Give it, or I will smash you to death." The pseudo-royal lord was stunned for a moment. In the next moment, he raised his hand and shattered the enormous universe fragment into dust while shouting at RDA through the territory gate, "Come and smash me if you dare." RDA immediately lost his temper. Starving as he was, how could he tolerate the sight of a perfectly good piece of food being ruined right in front of him? No matter how good-natured he was, he had reached his breaking point. He stood up and took a step forward. Just as RDA was about to charge through the territory gate, RR threw himself at RDA and pinned the latter down. On that day, the entire Black Ink clan in the no-return pass heard the roars that came from the other side of the territory gate. They could hear the bald giant spirit god screaming the words "smash you to death" over and over again. It was a terrifying sound. Inside the high-rank Black Ink nest that belonged to Mo-Na-Yi was reporting the situation to him, but another Black Ink clansman was sitting next to them. Given his right to sit together with Mo-Na-Yi and Mo-Yu on equal footing, the identity of this Black Ink clansman went without saying. He was a royal lord. The human race had produced a new generation of Ninth Order masters. Likewise, the Black Ink clan had also seen the rise of the next generation of royal lords. It had to be said that all acquired territory lords had the qualifications to become royal lords, thus, the only question that remained was whether they had the necessary aptitude. There was the issue where it was significantly more difficult for a territory lord to become a royal lord than an 8th Order master to advance into the 9th Order. The root cause was the method that the Black Ink clan employed to increase their strength was very different from the humans. Unlike the human race, which relied on personal effort and accumulation to enhance their strength, the Black Ink clan relied upon their black ink nests to cultivate. As the power of a Black Ink clansman grew, the process for them to enhance their strength became harder in turn. It was precisely because of this factor that despite having so many powerful territory lords, most were unable to become royal lords. Nevertheless, the difficulty of the process did not matter in the end. The accumulation over thousands of years was enough for some of those territory lords to overcome the bottleneck in their cultivation. Yang Kai had already noticed that particular issue when he came to the no-return pass more than 20 years ago. At that moment, he was certain that new royal lords were going to be born into the Black Ink clan in the near future. A few years after that, the Black Ink clan had indeed produced a third royal lord. It was none other than the individual sitting here with Mo Na Yi and Mo Yu. Although sitting here meant that he could join the discussion between Mo Na Yi and Mo Yu, the newly advanced royal lord simply sat there and listened quietly. In terms of qualifications and strength, he was much inferior compared to Mo Na Yi and Mo Yu. The Black Ink clan was different from the human race. There was no place for him to express his opinions here. He was only summoned so that he could listen to their discussion. Is there a need to intercept the human race army? Mo Yu scowled deeply. There are many 9th Order masters with them now. Won't it be disadvantageous for us if we send out our troops to confront them? Upon learning that the human race army was coming to attack them, Mo Na Yi immediately came up with a plan that Mo Yu frowned upon. His plan was to prepare an ambush along the route and intercept the human race army during their advance. On the other hand, Mo Yu preferred to fortify the defenses of the no-return pass and fight the human race army from within the no-return pass. The fate of the entire Black Ink clan rested upon this matter, so it was only natural for the higher-ups to have various conflicting opinions. Mo Na Yi was not surprised by Mo Yu's stance in this matter. In fact, he had already anticipated Mo Yu's opinion before he even came here. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5869, The Enemy Approaches, Marshall Peak. Hence, Mo Na Yi brought out the speech he had prepared in advance. Sir, the human race army is taking an extremely aggressive approach. I'm sure they are fighting with everything they have. Moreover, based on my understanding of the human race, the no-return pass is not their true goal. If they manage to conquer the no-return pass, they will definitely dispatch their army towards the primordial heavens source grand restriction. The primordial heavens source grand restriction. Mo Yu's expression darkened at those words. The primordial heavens source grand restriction was the origin of the Black Ink clan. It was understandable for the human race to attack the no-return pass, especially since the no-return pass originally belonged to them. The Black Ink clan had simply occupied this land for the past several thousands of years. However, the fact that the humans planned to use the no-return pass as their stepping stone to launch an offensive against the primordial heavens source grand restriction enraged Mo Yu. The humans are too arrogant. We currently have many pseudo-royal lords among our ranks, so we are perfectly capable of defending and holding the no-return pass. Not to mention, we also have the support of the two of the Supreme One's soul clones. It will not be easy for the human race army to conquer the no-return pass. Mo Na Yi cautioned Mo Yu, there is no need to be concerned about the ordinary members of the human race, but I hope you do not forget about Yang Kai, sir. It's true that we currently have many pseudo-royal lords among our ranks, but the situation on the battlefield can change in the blink of an eye. If Yang Kai was given the chance, there is no guarantee that the pseudo-royal lords would be able to survive a sneak attack from him. Upon hearing that name, Mo Yu's expression darkened even more as he couldn't help recalling the battle from several thousand years ago. When the Black Ink clan invaded the 3,000 worlds back then, they had forced the humans back into a mere dozen or so great territories. With such a glorious achievement, it seemed as though they could exterminate the human race with just a little more effort. That was the era when the innate territory lords had been locked in conflict with the 8th Order masters. At the critical juncture though, Yang Kai had abruptly appeared out of nowhere. Wielding a strange secret technique that harmed both himself and the enemy at the same time, he caused panic among the innate territory lords scattered across the various battlefields. In the end, he even managed to force the Black Ink clan to concede and sign a series of truces on the condition that he would no longer attack them. These agreements had given the human race some breathing room. Now, that person, who overturned the entire situation between the human race and the Black Ink clan by himself, had advanced to the Ninth Order Open Heaven realm. There was no denying that the Black Ink clan currently boasted a large number of pseudo-royal lords, but based on Yang Kai's previous battle records, it was clear those pseudo-royal lords had no means to protect themselves from him whatsoever. His interference alone had caused the Black Ink clan to lose 8 pseudo-royal lords in E5 territory. The current situation could be said to be even worse than the one in the past. A few thousand years ago, Yang Kai had relied upon his strange secret technique that harmed both himself and the enemy to carry out his attacks. As a result, he had always needed to recuperate for some time after each strike. Now, however, he no longer had such scruples. The goal of the human race army has never been the no-return pass. Now that they have dispatched their troops, they must be confident they will obtain the ultimate victory. If we wish to gain the upper hand under these circumstances, then we must change our approach from being passive to aggressive. We must strike a crushing blow while the human race army is on the march, otherwise, they will only become harder to defeat once they establish themselves outside the no-return pass. Mo Yu fell into deep thought at those words. Mo Na Yi relentlessly pressured Mo Yu, "Sir, this is our only chance. The opportunity will not come again." After a long time, Mo Yu finally raised his head to look at Mo Na Yi. "How should we deal with Yang Kai?" Mo Na Yi replied, "Alone, I am definitely not his opponent, but I am capable of restraining him with the help of several pseudo-royal lords." Then, he turned to look at the royal lord who had remained quiet all this time. Diya Luo can hide in the shadows and find an opportunity to ambush him. If all goes well, we might even be able to injure him heavily. Diya Luo nodded lightly. "If given the chance, I will do my best." Mo Na Yi added, "The human race is unaware of your existence, which makes you our trump card against Yang Kai. Do not expose your existence unless you have absolute confidence in achieving success." "I understand." Mo Yu questioned once more, "What about the Supreme One's soul clones? Do we need to mobilize them?" Mo Na Yi shook his head, "We must not mobilize them. The 2 giant spirit gods are watching us hungrily from the barren territory. What's more, we don't know if the human race has any other plans in place. If the Supreme One's soul clones leave the no-return pass, we will lose the ability to restrain the 2 giant spirit gods. The consequences will be dire if those 2 beings charge into the no-return pass at that time." Mo Yu frowned deeply in thought. Although he felt that Mo Na Yi's words made sense, he could not bring himself to make a decision. Seeing that, Mo Na Yi earnestly continued to persuade Mo Yu, "Sir, in the worst-case scenario, we will be besieged by the human race army at the no-return pass. They will chip away at our strength, just like how we attacked the no-return pass in the past. In such a situation, our defeat will be inevitable. On the contrary, we might have a chance at victory if we take the initiative to strike first." After he finished speaking, he watched Mo Yu calmly. Mo Na Yi had said everything he needed to say, so it was now up to Mo Yu to make the decision. There was nothing else he could do if Mo Yu refused to dispatch their troops to intercept the human race army. He might have made their situation sound extremely serious, but the truth was things were not that bad. Even if the human race army laid siege on the no-return pass, the Black Ink clan was not completely helpless to fight back. They had made various preparations in the no-return pass over the years, all for the arrival of this day. It was just that. Comparatively, Mo Na Yi preferred to take the initiative and launch an offensive for once. After a long time, Mo Yu nodded lightly, "I hope you are right." Mo Na Yi was overjoyed, but just as he was about to leave to make arrangements, a territory lord rushed into the room from the outside with a panicked expression. Mo Yu scowled at the territory lord and questioned in great displeasure, "What is it?" The territory lord hurriedly submitted a jade slip, "Sirs, the scouts on the front lines have discovered something of critical importance." Mo Yu raised a hand and grabbed the jade slip. Sending his divine sense inside, he studied the contents before his expression abruptly changed. Mo Na's heart thundered uneasily at the sight as he instantly realized that something had gone terribly wrong. Although he did not know what was written in the jade slip, he could tell from Mo Yu's expression that it was something detrimental to the Black Ink clan. In the next moment, Mo Yu silently handed the jade slip over. Mo Na took the jade slip and checked the contents. His expression quickly changed upon reading the contents and he exclaimed in alarm, "How can that be?" The information indicated that they had lost contact with countless Black Ink clan scouts along the route that he previously plotted from the no-return pass to the secret passage. More importantly, the location of these scouts was situated along the midpoint of the route. In other words, there were human race masters who not only traveled the distance that would have normally taken a year in less than 10 days, but also eliminated some of their spies who were stationed to monitor their progress. Mo Na immediately thought of Yang Kai. After all, Yang Kai was the only human at the moment who had enough proficiency in the Tao of space to travel at such mind-boggling speed. Looking back at the contents once more though, he felt his heart sinking after reading the second part. According to the information recorded, some of the Black Ink clan scouts had seen a magnificent grand hall in the void from a distance. Furthermore, the periphery of the grand hall was heavily guarded by the human race army, a universe temple. The Black Ink clan was no stranger to these early ancient era creations, having learned about the functions of the universe temples from the Black Ink disciples. The universe temples were mainly used by the humans in their travels thanks to the ability to shorten the time and distance required during their journey. Almost every great territory in the 3000 worlds had a universe temple. It was just that the Black Ink clan had destroyed many of them during the initial invasion. Nevertheless, it was evident that some had survived the war. Mo Na never expected that an object which should have remained in the 3000 worlds would appear on the Black Ink battlefield. Recalling the function of the universe temples, however, he immediately realized what was happening. Mo Yu had obviously come to the same conclusion. Looking at Mo Na, he dryly made an observation, "Looks like we do not need to attack them anymore. Prepare our defenses." In just half a month, a universe temple had appeared at the midpoint of the route that Mo Na had previously plotted. Wouldn't that mean that a universe temple would appear outside the no-return pass in another half a month? Under these circumstances, there was not enough time for the Black Ink clan to even organize an attack on the human race army. By the time they finished their preparations, the humans would already be at their doorstep. At this point, there was nothing else that Mo Na could do about the situation. All his plans and schemes were useless in this situation. If he wanted to defend the no-return pass, then he could only confront the humans. Thus, he composed his expression and said, "I understand." Mo Yu added, "We also need to come up with another solution for the two giant spirit gods." Agreed. There was some time until the human race army arrived. If they could deal with the two giant spirit gods before the attack, then they would be invincible. Over the next few days, the Black Ink clan significantly increased the intensity of their attempts to entice and provoke the two giant spirit gods. They even tried to send the two Black Ink giant spirit gods into the barren territory. Be that as it may, the enraged Ada did not give them any chance to take a single step forward. He stood firmly in front of the territory gate, smashing anybody who dared to step forward through the portal. Even the two Black Ink giant spirit gods were beaten so badly that they were forced to retreat. A steady flow of information was consistently being relayed to the no-return pass, and the various reports indicated that the human race army had erected 7 or 8 universe temples along their anticipated route. Some of the Black Ink clan scouts even witnessed the human race army appearing and disappearing from the universe temples from a distance. The current situation clearly explained the deployment of the human race army. With the help of the universe temples, they were rapidly approaching the no-return pass. Some 10 days later, a figure appeared just half a day away from the no-return pass. It was none other than Yang Kai, who had arrived ahead of the others. Gazing at the magnificent base in the distance, he raised his brow at the sight. The layout of the no-return pass had changed significantly compared to his previous visit. When he came here 20 years ago, The ruins of numerous destroyed great passes had been scattered around the no-return pass, and countless black ink nests had been distributed all over them without any regularity. At this moment, however, it was clear to see that the ruins of the great passes had been organized. The Black Ink clan had arranged the destroyed great passes left behind by the human race in a sphere outside the no-return pass to form a solid defensive barrier. Furthermore, the Black Ink clan army was gathered on the great passes. The impressive high-rank black ink nests had also been moved closer to the center of the no-return pass so that they could be strictly protected. It could be seen that the Black Ink clan had made various preparations in advance to deal with the humans' impending attack. Yang Kai even saw traces of large-scale artifacts on some of the destroyed great passes. The Black Ink clan were unable to perform artifact refining themselves, but they had many Black Ink disciples under their command. These artifacts must be the handiwork of those Black Ink disciples. Furthermore, 2 enormous Black Ink giant spirit gods stood guard on either side of the no-return pass, like 2 guardian gods. They towered over the majestic base with a chilling atmosphere around them. As soon as Yang Kai emerged, the 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods immediately detected his presence, raising their heads and turning to look in his direction. The Black Ink giant spirit god on the left even raised his hand and grabbed hold of a universe fragment nearby. In the next moment, he viciously threw the universe fragment in Yang Kai's direction with a roar. Thanks to his immense strength, the universe fragment, which contained heaven-destroying and earth-shattering power, broke through the barriers of space as it rapidly hurtled towards Yang Kai. Martial Peak. Martial Peak, Chapter 5870, Preparations, Martial Peak. Although Yang Kai was half a day's journey away from the no-return pass, that only referred to the time required to arrive at the no-return pass through normal means for a human race squad-class warship. Be that as it may, such a distance was well within the attack range of Yang Kai and the Black Ink giant spirit gods. At any rate, the Black Ink giant spirit god did not expect his attack to harm Yang Kai in any way. Yang Kai was in the 9th order, so how could a trivial universe fragment injure him? In response to the menacing attack, Yang Kai simply raised his hand slightly. The universe fragment that was hurtling towards him at an astonishing speed instantly came to an abrupt halt and quietly hovered in front of him. Then, he clenched his raised hand into a fist. The huge universe fragment subsequently exploded into dust. The loud and flashy confrontation instantly alerted the entire Black Ink clan in the no-return pass to the enemy's presence. One after another, countless figures quickly rushed out of the no-return pass and stared in Yang Kai's direction. Those figures radiated with powerful auras that shook the void. They were none other than the pseudo-royal lords. The pseudo-royal lords had obtained tremendous power with the help of the source fusion technique, but in exchange, they could never utilize their full strength. The price of their power was also their lack of ability to control it. For that reason, every one of them was extremely conspicuous. They generally resembled bright lights in the dark of the night when they stepped onto the battlefield, which made it impossible for them to carry out any kind of ambush. Yang Kai also saw Mo Na and Mo Yu. The 2 royal lords were standing in the middle of the no-return pass, surrounded by many pseudo-royal lords. When their gazes collided, Yang Kai grinned at them. On the other hand, the expressions of Mo Na and Mo Yu darkened at the sight. Now that Yang Kai was here, how far behind could the human race army be? The Black Ink clan had known that the humans were coming to attack the no-return pass and consequently made the necessary preparations in anticipation of the enemy's imminent arrival. Nevertheless, the speed of the human race army's advance was simply too swift. After staring at each other across the distance for some time, Yang Kai raised a hand and made a slashing motion across his throat at Mo Na and Mo Yu before he casually departed. It did not take long before his figure vanished from sight. Inside the no-return pass, Mo Na scowled fiercely. There was no denying that Yang Kai's actions were incredibly childish, but he could not guess the reason for him acting this way. Did he come here just to demonstrate his might? But, what was the point? Could he have other intentions? Mo Na instantly fell into deep thought, but he could not be blamed for being so cautious. Having been in conflict with Yang Kai for so many years, he knew that the latter had always taken advantage of the situation on every occasion. That was why, in his opinion, Yang Kai's every move was worthy of vigilance. At the same time, a universe temple had appeared in the void approximately 3 days' journey from the no-return pass, and a steady stream of human soldiers was emerging from it. The first to arrive was the Azure Sun Army. When their members had all been assembled, they quickly formed a solid line of defense around the universe temple. That was not all, as the Void Guard who arrived here the earliest were also searching for universe fragments of various sizes in the vicinity to serve as temporary camps. Jing Lun was standing near the universe temple when Yang Kai hurried over and reported his discovery at the no-return pass. Upon hearing Yang Kai's report, Jing Lun nodded. "I expected as much. The Black Ink clan has always ignored the Great Passes because we had no means to threaten the safety of the no-return pass, but now, they are the ones under attack instead. Knowing that an attack by our army is imminent, I am sure they made various arrangements in preparation. The Great Passes that we left behind back then are perfect as barricades and barriers." After he finished speaking, he turned to look at Yang Kai and asked, "Did Mo Na discover you?" Yang Kai replied, "I wasn't hiding." Jing Lun chuckled, "In that case, they won't dare to act rashly. Mo Na is both shrewd and suspicious, so your sudden appearance outside the no-return pass will definitely make him worry about various possibilities. I was worried that we might be attacked, but it looks like there's no need for such concerns anymore. If the Black Ink clan struck before the human army could finish assembling, the latter would definitely be troubled." The situation at this moment was the perfect example. Just the Azure Sun army alone would not be able to hold back so many Black Ink clansmen. Naturally, such an endeavor would also have been a huge risk to the Black Ink clan. The defenses at the no-return pass would weaken considerably if such a large number of Black Ink clan masters were to leave, which would have allowed the humans to exploit. The possibility was not likely to occur now though, so Jing Lun was only being vigilant towards every scenario. At this moment, he was practically certain that the Black Ink clan would not dare to act rashly again after Yang Kai's actions. This incident had given the human race army the opportunity to fully assemble their troops. An endless stream of soldiers poured out of the universe temple, but they all marched in an orderly manner without the slightest display of chaos. Meanwhile, Yang Kai took out the sphere that had been compressed by his space-time river. After finding a wide and open place, he raised his hand and threw the sphere. The space-time river lingered around the void, then the sphere expanded violently and quickly transformed into a majestic Great Pass. It was the Pure Yang Pass. Pure Yang Pass was not only the last remaining Great Pass in the possession of the human race, but would also be an important weapon in conquering the no-return pass. What's more, many of the soldiers learned for the first time that they had managed to regain one of the Great Passes from the hands of the Black Ink clan, thus, they couldn't help cheering at the sight. The Ninth Order masters who arrived earlier flew over and came to stand beside Yang Kai. Staring at the modified Great Pass, they couldn't help feeling emotional. It was as though they were recalling the tragic battle at the no-return pass. A large number of troops soon swarmed into Pure Yang Pass. Following the arrangement that had been determined in advance, they swiftly took their positions. It did not take long before the many spirit arrays began lighting up consecutively. At the same time, numerous array masters prepared some spirit arrays and unique artifacts in the nearby void. There was no need to mention the specific purpose of the spirit arrays for the time being. On the other hand, the artifacts were actually a set of void yin-yang mirrors, something that Yang Kai researched and refined in the past. The artifact was a large-scale one meant for teleporting massive objects, so it had no power for offense or defense. Each set of the void yin-yang mirrors was composed of 16 array boards, which were divided into two sides, yin and yang. Once activated, the artifact could swap the spaces within the range of the yin and yang mirrors like flipping the front and back of a mirror. The effect was both profound and mysterious. Yang Kai had mainly researched the artifact for the purpose of mining resources in Black Territory. At the time, he had used the loyalty list to bring Luan by Feng under his command. Black Territory had also fallen into his hands as a result. Black Territory was abundant with resources, but mining them was extremely dangerous. Nobody could delve deep into Black Territory due to a massive early ancient era super array. Therefore, Yang Kai's initial idea was that the ore slaves could mine the resources safely if he could figure out a method to transport the ore stars located inside the array to a safer location. That was how the void yin-yang mirrors came into existence. The artifact was first created by Yang Kai, but was later modified by the artifact refining Great Grandmaster Ma Fan. The performance of the artifact became much better as a consequence. Yang Kai had not only brought this artifact to the Black Ink battlefield, but also spread it throughout the various great passes, allowing them the chance to study and replicate it. Thanks to the effects of the void yin-yang mirrors, Yang Kai managed to solve the shortage of supplies among the major great passes in one fell swoop. Before the existence of the void yin-yang mirrors, the major great passes were forced to dispatch their soldiers deep into the void to gather supplies. These soldiers not only had to search for and mine materials, they also had to keep a constant lookout against ambushes and raids from the Black Ink clan. Things were different ever since they acquired the void yin-yang mirrors. They could now transport dead universe worlds and fragments that contained abundant resources to the vicinity of the great passes and mine them without worry. In this way, the efficiency of collecting resources naturally increased significantly. It was not an exaggeration to say that the lives of the soldiers at the major great passes improved considerably after Yang Kai came to the Black Ink battlefield. At this moment, the human race army was preparing many void yin-yang mirrors in their surroundings. Needless to say, they were preparing to transport many universe worlds and fragments here. It was just that the purpose of these universe worlds was not for sourcing resources. The 3 million human race masters in the Third Order Open Heaven realm and below were responsible for collecting resources, so there was no need for the main army to worry about supplies. As for the universe worlds that they transported here from deep within the void, there were other uses for them. For this purpose, the remaining Void Guard, except those who had to stay behind to monitor the universe temples along the way, had immediately sprung into action after Li Wuyi left for the Primordial Heaven's Source Grand Restriction with 80 Void Guard. Each of them had carried either the yin mirrors or the yang mirrors of a void yin-yang mirrors set and searched various areas of the void. As time passed, the various armies gathered in this place. Aside from the central army under Mi Jing Lun's direct command who occupied Pyongyang Pass, the other armies claimed a universe world or large universe fragment in the vicinity as their base camp. Each of these camps was soon overflowing with people as they worked to establish temporary outposts. The human race currently retained 12 armies, just like before. Mi Jing Lun had not made many adjustments to the organization. After all, each army had experienced thousands of years of fighting together. The heart of the army was united by the blood of their companions and their enemies at this point, and it might instead be detrimental to make any rash changes. Therefore, the 12 armies remained even though there were not enough Ninth Order masters to oversee them all. Luo Ting he was in command of the Azure Sun Army, Xiangshan was in charge of the Blood Flame Army, Ouyang Yang Lai commanded the Profound Nether Army, Wei Junyang led the Wolf Fang Army, Xiao Xiao was in command of the Soaring Cloud Army, Wu Qing commanded the Purple Feather Army, the newly advanced Shi Die Zhuang was in command of the Shocking Thunder Army while Tang Dao led the Red Flame Army. As for the Burning Moon Army, Twin Instrument Army, Azure Dawn Army, and Jade Cicada Army, these four remained unchanged. These four armies might not be under the leadership of a Ninth Order Master, but they had the largest numbers of divine spirits. In terms of overall strength, they were not inferior to the rest of the armies. Besides, these four armies contained many new generation 8th Order Masters who could advance to the 9th Order at any time. Once they experienced a breakthrough, these armies would also have the protection of a 9th Order Master. A few days later, large ripples spread out endlessly from an area somewhere in the void that was warded off by a set of void yang mirrors. The vibration from these ripples was so strong that the space anchored by the yang mirrors became extremely unstable, making it difficult to distinguish between what was real and what was illusory. With the spreading of the ripples, the fluctuations of space principles became increasingly obvious. As time passed, under the watch of countless eyes, something seemed to appear in the space that was originally empty. Once all the commotion had settled, the object turned out to be an enormous universe world that had appeared out of nowhere. Several soldiers quickly stepped forward to retrieve the yin mirrors before moving to set them up in a new free space. Many array masters and artifact refiners then rushed towards the universe world and gathered on the side of it that was facing away from the no-return pass. Following a cursory survey of the geography, they immediately sprang into action and prepared a large-scale spirit array on the back of the universe whirl. After the first universe world was transported here via the void yin-yang mirrors, more and more began appearing. Meanwhile, almost all the array masters and artifact refiners from the 12 armies were dispatched, working diligently without rest. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5871, Universe Worlds, Marshall Peak. In the short span of 1 month, hundreds of universe worlds of varying sizes appeared in the void where the human race army had gathered thanks to the teleportation effects of the void yin-yang mirrors. At this moment, every single artifact refiner and array master in the human race army was hard at work. Even young Kai was toiling away alongside them. Following the consumption of substantial resources, numerous spirit arrays were constructed on the universe worlds. Another 2 months later, their preparations were complete. The dwindling resources of the human race were completely exhausted after such a grand and large-scale project. However, the Ninth Order Masters did not seem worried about the situation. There were nearly 3 million humans at or below the Third Order gathering resources throughout the Black Ink battlefield and many universe temples equipped with space arrays connecting to various locations. Therefore, it would not take long before large amounts of materials came flowing in from all directions. It could be said that they no longer had to worry about resources as soon as they entered the Black Ink battlefield through the secret passage. During the past 3 months, the Black Ink clan at the No-Return Pass had repeatedly sent out scouts to investigate the situation. As they did not dare to dispatch any masters for the task, the information that the weak Black Ink clansmen could obtain was very limited. All the Black Ink clan knew was that the human race army had assembled at a spot some 3 days' journey from the No-Return Pass, and that they could attack at any moment. They could not gain any further information regarding the situation. On this day, all preparations were completed. The human race army finally embarked on their quest to retake the No-Return Pass. This crusade was the first of its kind in the thousands of years since the Black Ink clan first invaded the 3,000 worlds, the first time the human race had truly taken the initiative in the war. The roles of the hunter and the prey were reversed at this moment. It was also the first battle since the human race army launched their offensive. Hence, every single soldier in the human race army displayed high morale and intense fighting spirit. The bustling void became empty in a flash. Aside from the squads who had to stay behind and guard the universe temples and the human race masters with special duties, the rest of the army had divided into 2 groups and advanced towards the No-Return Pass. 1 day later, the movements of the human race army were relayed to the No-Return Pass by their lookouts. Mo-Na-Yi finally felt his anxiety receding slightly at the knowledge. The human race army had come to attack, but there had been no movement from them for the past 3 months. The feeling of having a knife held against his neck was extremely uncomfortable. He did not know what sort of preparations and arrangements the enemy was making during this period, but he could be certain about one thing: he could not afford to underestimate them. Now that the blade had been swung, who was stronger and who was weaker would be determined in combat. There was no doubt that the human race army was the strongest it had ever been, but the Black Ink clan was not inferior. Mo-Na-Yi also believed that the Black Ink clan had a slight advantage as the defending party. Under these circumstances, the human race army would most likely be sent back in defeat if they came attacking directly from the front. It was truly unfortunate that the commander of the opposing party was Mi Jinglun, who would never make such a stupid decision. After receiving the report from the scouts on the front lines, Mo-Na-Yi glanced at the information and frowned deeply. It was just as he had expected. The human race army had made various deployments and arrangements in advance. The reports indicated that the human race army was not aiming for a frontal attack. On the contrary, they had divided their forces into 2 groups and taken a considerable detour by traveling in a wide arc. Judging by their formation, they seemed to be approaching the No-Return Pass from both the right and left sides in a pincer attack. The deployment of the human race army was both reasonable yet also unexpected. Nevertheless, their actions confused Mo-Na-Yi. He knew that Mi Jinglun was not naive enough to believe the humans could conquer the No-Return Pass with such a simple pincer attack, but he could not figure out the purpose behind their deployment either. Unable to determine their aim, Mo-Na could only adopt countermeasures on the fly according to how the situation evolved. At his command, most of the Black Ink Clan army in the No-Return Pass mobilized various defensive measures ahead of the human race army's advance. The humans sailed forward aggressively. It was always necessary to take the initiative in a war. After all, the only deciding factor between victory and defeat was the limit of casualties that could be sustained by the respective parties. At this moment, Yang Kai was back at the base camp of the human army on one of the largest universe worlds in the vicinity of the Universe Temple. He was lying down in a deserted mountain valley with his arms behind his head and one leg crossed over his knee. Staring into the void blankly, he looked like he was enjoying a rare moment of peace amidst the chaotic situation. He had been fighting the Black Ink Clan for countless years. During this period, he had always been cultivating hard or rushing somewhere to accomplish a mission. There had never been a time when he could relax, so he couldn't help feeling a little strange at the abrupt change. Nevertheless, the reason he did not join the assault was that he had his own mission to carry out. Dozens of Void Guard and hundreds of Eighth Order Masters were also tasked with carrying out similar missions. At this moment, they were scattered around the numerous universe worlds that had been prepared beforehand. All of a sudden, Yang Kai's unfocused gaze sharpened without warning and a light flashed through his eyes at the same time. "It's about time," he muttered to himself, climbing to his feet as he stretched lazily. Peaceful and happy times were often short-lived in this age of chaos. After taking the time to forget about his troubles and enjoying a carefree rest for a day, Yang Kai felt refreshed and full of energy. It was time to take action. With a shout, he circulated his strength and channeled his world force into the spirit array beneath his feet. The intricate patterns of the spirit array immediately lit up and rapidly spread outward like an uncontrolled wildfire. Looking down from the void, it could be seen that the spirit array was extremely large. In fact, the spirit array practically covered 10% the entire universe world's surface. When the spirit array was activated, an enormous light barrier emerged to surround the universe world. Propelled by the power of the light barrier under Yang Kai's control, the gigantic universe world which had been peacefully hovering in the void slowly began to move as though it was being pushed by a large, invisible hand. At first, this movement was slight, however, its momentum became greater and greater with the passage of time. After passing through the various spirit arrays that were constructed in the void beforehand, the speed of the universe worlds increased sharply. Furthermore, the direction in which the enormous universe world was advancing was none other than the direction where the No-Return Pass was located. Behind this enormous universe world, countless other universe worlds and fragments of varying sizes were moving in the same direction. It was a magnificent sight to behold. Yang Kai stood on top of the universe world, looking bold and heroic. Throwing his head back with laughter, he sent a divine sense transmission in all directions. "Proud soldiers of the human race, let us charge into battle." Many Eighth Order Masters and Void Guards responded gallantly from the backs of those universe worlds. The strategy to attack the Black Ink Clan by making use of the impact caused by the collision of universe worlds was pioneered by the Great Evolution Army during the previous war. While the Northern and Southern Great Evolution armies blockaded the Great Evolution Pass under Mi Jing Lun's command, Xiong Shan led the Eastern and Western armies to assault the royal city. At that time, Xiong Shan had repeatedly unleashed this tactic, draining the strength of the Black Ink Clan to a huge extent. This strategy was generally very difficult to employ. After all, it was very strenuous to gather the universe worlds that were scattered throughout the void. Simply transporting appropriate universe worlds with manpower alone was not only extremely time-consuming but also incredibly labor-intensive, so the effort was considered impractical. However, the strategy became much more viable with Yang Kai's void yin-yang mirrors. The human race army gained the ability to gather universe worlds that were originally scattered throughout the void thanks to the support of the void yin-yang mirrors. Then, they prepared various spirit arrays to support and reinforce their weapons. The Great Evolution Army had employed this tactic to cause not only tremendous damage to the Black Ink Clan, but to also threaten the royal city in the Great Evolution Theater. At the same time, the losses faced by the Great Evolution Army were reduced significantly. The scouts dispatched by the no-return pass had naturally discovered traces of the human race army gathering universe worlds. Needless to say, even low-rank Black Ink clansmen couldn't miss hundreds of universe worlds being brought over by the humans. The gathering of so many universe worlds was by no means a small-scale action after all. When Mo-Na-Yi received the information from his scouts, he was amazed that the humans had such mysterious means. He did not think too much about this matter though, as he simply assumed that the human race masters were planning to mine resources from those universe worlds. How could he have known that they were planning to use these universe worlds to attack the no-return pass? If there were any survivors from the Black Ink clan army of Great Evolution Theatre, they would have understood the human race army's intentions in a heartbeat. It was a pity that the entire Black Ink clan army from the Black Ink battlefield back then had been exterminated by the humans during the First Crusade. Furthermore, the Black Ink disciples under the current Black Ink clan's control had not participated in the previous war on the Black Ink battlefield. There had also been no need for the human race army to employ this tactic over the past few thousands of years. The assault on the no-return pass was the first opportunity to make use of this strategy. Jing Lun did not expect this battle to determine victory and defeat. There were countless masters in the no-return pass, not to mention 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods. They were by no means easy prey to defeat. Nevertheless, it was the first battle since the human race army set off to conquer the no-return pass, so it was only natural to start things off on the right foot. Therefore, they had not hesitated to bring out the universe world impact strategy that was used to besiege Great Evolution Royal City in the past. The humans even exhausted their remaining resources transporting and modifying several hundred universe worlds for this initial battle. The reason why the human race army had to divide into 2 groups and sail in a wide arc was to leave a clear path for the universe worlds that were hurtling towards the no-return pass. Otherwise, these universe worlds would have collided with their troops that were blocking the way. It would be extremely embarrassing if they struck their own forces before they even managed to attack their enemy. Besides, the human race army would also distract the Black Ink clan's attention by marching ahead. All the forces of the Black Ink clan in the no-return pass were currently focused on the human race army advancing from the left and right sides. How could they ever have imagined that hundreds of universe worlds would come flying at them from their center? Many Black Ink clansmen were gathered in the Grand Hall of the no-return pass, and the atmosphere was gloomy. The attack of the human race army had long been expected. In fact, Mo-Na-Yi had already anticipated today's situation all the way back when he recalled all the pseudo-royal lords more than 20 years ago. At the time, the Black Ink clan could have chosen to retreat from the no-return pass, but where would they go after leaving this place? Were they supposed to aimlessly wander around the Black Ink battlefield? Even if they did that, they would be found by the human race army one day. Rather than fighting in the void of the Black Ink battlefield, it was better to stay and defend the already fortified no-return pass. Furthermore, the mission of the Black Ink clan had always been to erode the 3,000 worlds and destroy the human race so that Mo would rule the universe. The Black Ink clan was not born to fight for their survival, but for their Supreme One's ultimate hegemony. Report after report came from the front. Following the steady approach of the human race army from both sides, the atmosphere in the Grand Hall became increasingly depressed. It was not until the human army was only half a day's journey away from the no-return pass that Mo-Na-Yi slowly got to his feet. Glancing around at the many pseudo-royal lords gathered below him, he solemnly declared, "Everyone, assume your duties and take your positions. Since the humans dare to come attacking, then we will slaughter them until not a single one of them is left alive." The pseudo-royal lords accepted the order and hurriedly flew away. Then, Mo-Na-Yi looked at Mo Yu again. "Sir, when the time comes, we will need you to restrain one of the Ninth Order Masters. However, the situation on the battlefield changes rapidly. Please adapt to the circumstances as you see fit." Mo Yu nodded. "I know, but I probably won't even need to worry about anything. The Ninth Order Masters will come to me themselves." Mo-Na-Yi agreed. There were more Ninth Order Masters than Royal Lords at the moment, so they would surely attempt to restrain both himself and Mo Yu. There was really no need for Mo Yu to bother taking the initiative. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5872, One-Way Journey. Marshall Peak. Mo Na glanced at Diya Luo. I will engage with young Kai in battle. Meanwhile, look for an opportunity to make your move. Do not expose yourself unless you find a suitable opening. I understand. Diya Luo nodded heavily. As the only royal lord born within the Black Ink clan over the past 20 years, he was the trump card that Mo Na had prepared against young Kai, so his existence could not be exposed. The moment he appeared, he had to strike a deadly blow against young Kai. Among all the Ninth Order masters, young Kai posed the greatest threat to the Black Ink clan. No matter the strength of the other Ninth Order masters, they could be contained by several pseudo-royal lords working together. Only young Kai, whose Dao strength river was both profound and mysterious, was extremely difficult to handle. The pseudo-royal lords alone were not enough to restrain him. It was only possible to stop him if a royal lord personally took action. Moreover, it would also depend on whether there was an opportunity to obstruct young Kai, as the latter was proficient in the Dao of space, which made him as slippery as an eel. Without the right opportunity, nobody could even hope to pin him down. Although the Black Ink clan had 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods, they could not be dispatched into battle casually, as the true giant spirit gods were eyeing the no-return pass eagerly. If the 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods left their post in the no-return pass, the Black Ink clan would have no means to guarantee the safety of their rear. It could be said that the existence of the 2 giant spirit gods was keeping the Black Ink clan's strongest combat force in check. Naturally, the same could be said in reverse. In this situation, neither side had an advantage over the other. After making various arrangements, Mo Na darted out of the Grand Hall and stared into the depths of the void. With his cultivation and eyesight, he could naturally see the imposing human race army around him. The huge and boundless fleet coming from both sides resembled a swarm of locusts that covered his entire field of vision. Just looking at the scene gave off an extremely strong sense of oppression. Not to mention, there was a conspicuous and majestic great pass on the left side of the human race army that stood out like a sore thumb. The corner of his face twitched involuntarily at the sight of the great pass, as it was none other than pure Yang Pass that young Kai took from the no-return pass some 20 years ago. Despite knowing that the human race army would use pure Yang Pass against the Black Ink clan if they let young Kai take it, the Black Ink clan was forced to make certain concessions due to the pressure from various threats caused by young Kai at the time. That was because the safety of the pseudo-royal lords wandering outside could not be guaranteed if young Kai was allowed to act as he pleased. The Great Pass had been repaired and modified by the human race. At this moment, the entire Great Pass seemed to radiate with a sense of grandeur. It was easy to see that the various artifacts mounted on the walls of the Great Pass were not mere decorations. Any Black Ink clansman who dared to approach the Great Pass would instantly be greeted with a storm of attacks. With pure Yang Pass, the safety of Mi Jinglun, who served as the supreme commander of the human race army, would be guaranteed. Mo Na couldn't help feeling a twinge of regret at the sight. He had been searching for an opportunity to eliminate Mi Jinglun the entire time, but the latter had always remained in the supreme headquarters during the previous wars. Because Mi Jinglun rarely entered the battlefield, the Black Ink clan had been unable to touch a single hair on his head up until now. Besides, it had been obvious that young Kai was preparing the Great Pass for Mi Jinglun when he came to the no-return pass and demanded pure Yang Pass. Mo Na sneered coldly to himself, young Kai sure takes good care of Supreme Commander Mi. Then, various other thoughts came to mind unbidden. I wonder if the human race army will fall into chaos if Mi Jinglun is killed before they launch their attack on the no-return pass. Ha! Where is young Kai? He swept his gaze over the human race army coming from both sides but did not spot his nemesis anywhere. The realization caused Mo Na to become vigilant. Not only was young Kai proficient in the Dao of space, but he also seemed to have mastered a mysterious secret technique that almost perfectly concealed himself. If he wanted to stay hidden and ambush the pseudo-royal lords during the battle, none of the pseudo-royal lords would survive the encounter. Could he be hiding in the vicinity? That's certainly a possibility. Just as Mo Na was starting to feel suspicious, the human race army that had been approaching the no-return pass slowly from both flanks suddenly accelerated. The news was instantly relayed to the entire no-return pass. The battle was about to begin, and the atmosphere in the no-return pass was chilling. The entire Black Ink clan had mentally prepared themselves to fight the humans to the death. Likewise, the pseudo-royal lords were blazing with intense fighting spirit. They displayed their auras proudly, not bothering to conceal their presence in the slightest. 4 hours passed and the humans were now closing in on the no-return pass. Be it the human race army or the Black Ink clan army, the stronger soldiers now could already see the various deployments of the opposing party clearly. At this moment, none of the Black Ink clansmen, including the royal lords, noticed anything abnormal. However, the 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods standing guard on both sides of the no-return pass reacted as though they had discovered something. One of the Black Ink giant spirit gods grabbed a universe fragment from nearby and hurled it into the distance, just like how he had attacked Yang Kai several months ago. The rather large universe fragment shot through the void at a high speed, but under the astonished gaze of the Black Ink clan, it did not hurtle towards the human race army but instead soared off into the empty middle void. Then, the 2 giant spirit gods began to hurl universe fragment after universe fragment into the void without pause. A great surge of anxiety immediately washed over Mo Na Yi at the sight. According to the original plans, the Black Ink giant spirit gods were supposed to use this tactic against the human race army once the war began. They were responsible for guarding the no-return pass, so they could not move around easily. Nevertheless, they could rely on throwing these universe fragments to create a great degree of disturbance to the human race army. If they were lucky, they might even injure their enemies. Even the 8th Order Masters would not be able to withstand such an attack from these Black Ink giant spirit gods. However, the 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods had unexpectedly begun to take action before the war started or the Black Ink clan army in the no-return pass engaged the enemy. The sudden turn of events was very different from the original plans. As the 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods were both soul clones of the Supreme One, Mo Na Yi had no right to criticize them for anything. Be that as it may, he gradually began to notice the abnormality after observing their actions. He looked in the direction where the universe fragments were being thrown, and what entered his field of vision were countless shadows of indescribable size. When he finally caught a clear glimpse of the shadows, his body began to shake involuntarily. At the same time, he felt as though his head was about to explode at the sight. Those shadows were actually enormous universe worlds. He finally realized something about the piece of information that he had neglected before. The reason the human race army had gathered so many universe worlds was not to mine for resources. They were using them as weapons to attack the no-return pass. With the abilities of the human race, it was not surprising for them to achieve such a feat. It was just that Mo Na Yi never expected them to attack in such an outrageous manner. The Black Ink clan had only thought of relying on the Black Ink giant spirit god's strength to attack the human race army by throwing universe fragments at them, but the humans found a way to do something similar. They had brought the universe worlds to the war. Moreover, there were hundreds of them. It was simply outrageous. In Mo Na Yi's field of vision, the universe world that came first was particularly massive. At the same time, Yang Kai's figure finally appeared on the periphery of a large universe world. He was flying through the void, leading hundreds of unstoppable universe worlds in a torrent behind him. Facing the first universe fragment that the Black Ink giant spirit god hurled at him, Yang Kai simply raised his hand slightly and clenched his fist lightly. In response, the universe fragment instantly exploded into dust. Pointless tricks. 10 million kilometers away, Yang Kai looked in the direction of the no-return pass and grinned at Mo Na Yi. Immediately after that, he summoned the space-time river. The river was like a whip, dancing wildly in the void, smashing all the universe fragments hurtling towards him. Useless. All useless. His voice resounded through the void. Mo Na Yi, there is an old saying among the human race that goes, "It's rude not to reciprocate a kind gesture." The Black Ink clan delivered Pure Yang Pass and a considerable amount of resources to me 20 years ago, so I brought you a generous gift today in return. Please accept my sincerity. Behind the universe fragments, hundreds of 8th Order Masters shouted in unison, "Please accept our sincerity." Their unrestrained and defiant expressions nearly gave Mo Na Yi a heart attack from rage. Likewise, the expressions of the Black Ink clansmen in the no-return pass turned increasingly solemn. They would not have worried if they were simply attacked with hundreds of universe worlds. All from the Black Ink clan masters were currently assembled in the no-return pass, so with their combined strength, mere hundreds of universe worlds could easily be destroyed before they even got close. However, the human race army was currently surging towards their left and right flanks. If the Black Ink clan diverted their strength to intercept these universe worlds, the human army would surely take advantage of their distraction. On the other hand, the impact on the no-return pass would be too much if they simply ignored the universe worlds. The Black Ink clan masters might not be too affected, but those with lower cultivation would definitely suffer heavy casualties. Any possible casualties were merely their secondary concern, however, as their primary worry was that the impact of such an attack might threaten the safety of the Black Ink nests. After all, Black Ink nests were all extremely fragile. At this moment, the intention of the humans was extremely clear. The two groups pressing them from either side abruptly increased their speed so that they arrived at the same time as the universe worlds. They were planning to completely overwhelm the Black Ink clan from all sides. It was too late to reposition the troops at this point, so all Mo'Ne could do was make some subtle adjustments here and there. He relayed order after order to the Black Ink clan army, and to their credit, the Black Ink clan army flawlessly executed his commands. The short wait that followed felt like endless torture. As the hundreds of universe worlds drew nearer, their huge shadows seemed to block out the entire sky, causing every single Black Ink clansman to feel a heavy and oppressive pressure. Many Black Ink clan masters also held their breaths and braced themselves against the coming impact. An hour later, the hundreds of universe worlds that were launched from the depths of the void finally entered the attacking range of the Black Ink clan. Mo'Ne swiftly unleashed a secret technique. His actions were immediately followed by an overwhelming wave of attacks that burst out from the no-return pass and blasted towards the distance. Good. Yang Kai pushed his space-time river in front of the lead universe world, coiling it into a giant swirling shield that absorbed and blocked the various secret techniques blasting towards it, causing the water to churn violently. Yang Kai could only endure this barrage for 10 breaths before he began to buckle under the pressure. His strength was impressive and his attainments in the Grand Daos were extremely profound. Nevertheless, it was an extravagant hope to withstand the combined attacks of so many masters from the Black Ink clan. If he stubbornly insisted on this course of action, the very foundation of his Grand Daos would be affected once the space-time river was damaged. After uttering such haughty words, Yang Kai decisively dodged to the side. Without his interference, the enormous universe world was blasted apart by the rain of secret techniques that came flying over in the next moment. The universe world shattered to pieces and scattered about at the same time. The human army approaching the no-return pass unleashed a volley of attacks. The void immediately lit up in various colors of all intensities. Then, these lights streaked across space like shooting stars and rained down upon the no-return pass. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5873, Double the Impact, Marshall Peak. Countless Black Ink clan miscellaneous troops were stationed along the outermost edges of the no-return pass, and their numbers were overwhelming in every sense of the word. This formation was the most commonly used tactic by the Black Ink clan. Throughout the years of constant conflict with the human race, the Black Ink clan often relied upon the sacrifice of their cannon fodder to shave away at the strength of the humans at the outset of battle. After all, they could spawn as many of these miscellaneous troops as they wanted as long as they had Black Ink nests and resources. That was why the Black Ink clan remained unaffected by the deaths of these troops, no matter how many of them died. Besides, the existence of the cannon fodder could do more than just wear down the strength of the human race army. Following the deaths of the countless lower soldiers, the Black Ink strength in their bodies would permeate their surroundings and gather together to form dense Black Ink clouds. It was equivalent to artificially creating a battlefield that was advantageous to the Black Ink clan. Fighting under such circumstances was undoubtedly disadvantageous for the human race army, but the Black Ink clan took to such conditions like how fish took to the water. In the past, the humans used to be greatly hindered by this tactic and suffered heavy casualties as a result. Fortunately, they had the purifying Black Ink pills and purifying light nowadays. The existence of the purifying Black Ink pills and purifying light drastically reduced the deterrent effect of these tactics on them, but they could not ignore the detrimental effects completely. There were bound to be some remaining effects from fighting the Black Ink clan under these conditions for extended periods. After the first volley of fire from the human race army, countless Black Ink clan troops were blasted into a cloud of blood mist, and the entire periphery of the no-return pass facing the Black Ink battlefield was gradually covered in Black Ink strength. When the human race masters launched their offensive, the Black Ink clan masters in the no-return pass were busy intercepting the universe worlds that came hurtling down their center. One after another, the universe worlds were blown apart into fragments of varying sizes that still hurtled towards the no-return pass. The scene was a huge mess. Fortunately, the human race army had prepared many universe worlds. Moreover, they did not pack them too closely together. Despite suffering some losses, the damages did not affect the overall situation. Nevertheless, more than 50 of the universe worlds were destroyed in the blink of an eye. At this rate, the universe worlds would all be completely destroyed before they could even cause any damage to the no-return pass. But how could the humans simply allow the Black Ink clan to do so? The Black Ink clan's cannon fodder stationed around the outermost edges of the no-return pass suffered heavy casualties, and enormous gaps soon appeared in the defense line that they formed. Although a steady stream of these miscellaneous troops rushed forward fearlessly to replenish their lines and fill the gaps, the reinforcements could no longer keep up with the speed of the losses. The human army steadily approached from opposite sides. In addition, the continuous barrage of secret techniques and artifacts that blasted out of the huge fleet and shot in the direction of the no-return pass forced the Black Ink clan to rely on the Black Ink giant spirit gods to intercept the attacks. Looking down from outside the battlefield, the scene of the war was extremely magnificent. Both the Black Ink clan and the human race had made extensive preparations for the battle. Numerous attacks containing violent and destructive power rose from their respective camps only to fall towards the opposing one. The battle was in full swing. Many masters from the Black Ink clan were being increasingly restrained by the forces of the human race army that were closing in, so they could only watch as the hundreds of universe worlds and fragments approached the no-return pass. The sight left them feeling powerless and anxious. At this moment, Mo-Na was inside the no-return pass. He was simultaneously summoning various secret techniques to intercept the attacks from the human race army and monitoring the movement of his surroundings with his divine sense. Despite his calm demeanor on the surface, he was actually racked with anxiety for one simple reason: Yang Kai was gone. When the universe worlds came flying towards the no-return pass, Yang Kai had been standing atop the biggest one leading the way. Be that as it may, he had vanished without a trace after the universe world was smashed to pieces by the combined forces of the Black Ink clan. Yang Kai's sudden disappearance sent a chill down Mo-Na's spine. Unknown dangers were the most terrifying, especially when a master like Yang Kai was involved. It would not be a good thing for the Black Ink clan if Yang Kai concealed his figure and aura, then took advantage of the chaos to infiltrate the no-return pass. After a quick look around, Mo-Na was relieved to see that many of the pseudo-royal lords were still following his previous instructions and arrangements. The pseudo-royal lords were in 3 fortunes battle formations, which allowed them to guard each other's backs. In this way, they could protect themselves to a certain degree if Yang Kai suddenly appeared and launched a sneak attack on them. As for the territory lords below the pseudo-royal lords, there was no helping them. They could only blame their poor luck if they were targeted by Yang Kai. With Yang Kai's current status and cultivation, while he might not even care enough to specifically target these territory lords, there was still a possibility that he would eliminate them in passing. The ongoing battle remained unchanged. Although the Black Ink clan suffered heavy casualties, their losses mainly came from the ranks of their cannon fodder, while the masters were mostly unharmed. On the other hand, the human race also suffered some degree of loss. Some of the warships out front had been damaged, and a few were completely destroyed. Of course, there were casualties among the soldiers too. Be that as it may, Mo-Na was not optimistic about the situation. Anybody with a discerning eye could see that humans had carefully planned and prepared their attack today. The Black Ink clan was bound to pay an expensive price in this battle. The human race army rapidly closed in on the no-return pass from both sides, and the hundreds of universe worlds flying forward approached the no-return pass at a high speed. These universe worlds were constantly being blown up as they closed in. It was fortunate that the Eighth Order masters controlling these universe worlds quickly noticed the danger and escaped beforehand. If not, they could not have defended themselves from the dense storm of attacks raining down on them. Ultimately though, the Black Ink clan found themselves lacking the necessary numbers to handle the situation. Even though the Black Ink clan desperately tried to defend themselves, they simply lacked the manpower to face both the human race army and the universe world attack at the same time. An hour into the confrontation, one of the universe worlds finally broke through layers of heavy blockades and slammed into the Black Ink clan's outermost line of defense. At the moment of collision, the spirit arrays arranged on the universe world suddenly blazed with light and illuminated the entire sky like a great sun. The spectacle was immediately followed by the grand explosion of the universe world, which detonated with a terrifying force. It could be seen that the power of the spirit arrays was impressive indeed. It only took a moment for the Black Ink clan soldiers in the vicinity to be wiped out completely. Even a few of the territory lords staggered backwards from the force of the explosion. Meanwhile, the auras of many feudal lords vanished from existence. The expressions of many Black Ink clansmen changed at that sight as they gained a new understanding of their predicament. These universe worlds hurtling towards the no-return pass did not just contain enormous momentum but were also covered in various dangerous spirit arrays. That was what made these universe worlds even more terrifying. Unfortunately, their realization came too late. After one universe world broke through the Black Ink clan's defense perimeter, a second and a third quickly followed. Although the majority of the universe worlds were destroyed en route, the human race army was extremely well prepared. In fact, they even went so far as to exhaust all their remaining resources just to arrange the spirit arrays on so many universe worlds. The places along the line of defense that were struck by the universe worlds were in complete disarray. There were countless casualties, and several spots now had wide gaps in them. Hence, the Black Ink clan masters nearby were rushing to restore the defense perimeter to hold the line. Nevertheless, this was just the beginning. At this point, the true power of the human race army had yet to be displayed. The previous exchange had merely been a long-distance confrontation, and the attack relying upon the collision of the universe worlds was simply borrowed from external forces. The power of the humans itself remained hidden from sight. Mo-Na-Yi's heart sank. Before the war began, he had already mentally prepared himself for the fact that the Black Ink clan would suffer considerable losses. However, it would now seem that they were going to take far more casualties than he originally expected. All of a sudden, he turned his head to look in a certain direction. 3 pseudo-royal lords were standing along the line of defense in that direction. They had formed the Three Fortunes formation and were working together to attack one of the incoming universe worlds. This universe world had almost made it to the defense line at this point. Just as the universe world was about to collide with the outermost perimeter, it was abruptly stopped and exploded thanks to the joint attack of the 3 pseudo-royal lords. The huge impact unleashed a shockwave that caused ripples to spread out across the void in all directions, and the figures of the 3 pseudo-royal lords involuntarily staggered from the resulting aftermath. "Watch out!" Mo-Na-Yi's furious roar suddenly rang out in the ears of the 3 pseudo-royal lords. Their reaction was undeniably swift. Almost at the same time that Mo-Na-Yi shouted his warning, they drew upon their respective power and blasted their strongest attack in a certain direction. In that direction, a figure suddenly emerged from the space that was originally empty. It was none other than Yang Kai, who had gone missing previously. Nobody knew how Yang Kai had infiltrated the defenses of the Black Ink clan or when he had appeared at that position. After his 3 selves united, he successfully mastered Thunder Shadow's innate divine ability, which gave him an unmatched advantage in terms of concealment. Only a royal lord could perceive his movements and whereabouts within a limited range. If the pseudo-royal lords had investigated their surroundings wholeheartedly, they might have had a chance to notice his approach. Unfortunately, it was impossible for the pseudo-royal lords to see through the traces of Yang Kai's movements under such chaotic conditions. The chaos had created the perfect conditions for Yang Kai to hide in. Therefore, it was not until he made his move that the 3 pseudo-royal lords noticed his presence. Mo-Na-Yi's warning had sounded at roughly the same time. When the sound of the surging river entered the depth of their hearts, The three pseudo-royal lords involuntarily gulped nervously as a wave of fear washed over them. Yang Kai's achievements in E5 territory had long since spread throughout the no-return pass. At this point, not a single Black Ink clansman remained ignorant about that tragedy. A total of 8 pseudo-royal lords had died at Yang Kai's hands, all thanks to the mysterious Dao strength river he possessed. As the saying went, a lesson from the past was a guide for the future. The deep-seated fear of Yang Kai experienced by these 3 pseudo-royal lords could be said to come from the bottom of their hearts. Accompanied by the sound of roaring water that resounded throughout the void, the Dao strength river appeared and swept towards the 3 pseudo-royal lords like a flood. It was natural to try to avoid such attacks as soon as possible under normal circumstances. After all, they would never recover if they were caught in the currents of the Dao strength river. Unexpectedly though, the 3 pseudo-royal lords did not dodge the attack immediately. On the contrary, their fighting spirits seemed to awaken at this juncture of life or death. The aura that was closely connected between them became increasingly solid as a result as they swiftly blasted out a continuous barrage of attacks at the Dao strength river sweeping towards them. The Dao strength river, which was relatively calm in the beginning, abruptly churned violently. As the bombardment from the pseudo-royal lords intensified, the waves of the Dao strength river swelled to greater heights. Yang Kai, who was holding the Dao strength river in his hand, involuntarily gave a muffled grunt. At the same time, the strength of his offensive weakened considerably as a result. Seeing that, the 3 pseudo-royal lords were overjoyed as they also secretly felt a sense of admiration and respect for Mo Na Yi. Sir Mo Na Yi is a hero indeed. His instructions were indeed an effective method to counter Yang Kai's Dao strength river. The truth was that Mo Na Yi had taught the pseudo-royal lords various methods and strategies to counter Yang Kai's Dao strength river after the battle in E5 territory. Not only did he confront Yang Kai inside the universe furnace, but he was also swept into the space-time river by Yang Kai once and broke free from its restraints thanks to various circumstances. That was why he had a certain degree of understanding regarding the Dao strength river. Martial Peak. Martial Peak, Chapter 5874, Fake and Real. Martial Peak. The battle at E5 territory had resulted in great losses for the Black Ink clan. The deaths of 8 pseudo-royal lords had left Mo Yu and Mo Na Yi heartbroken. They no longer had the means to increase the number of pseudo-royal lords anymore, so there would be one less pseudo-royal lord with every death. After that incident, Mo Na Yi had seriously considered various methods to overcome Yang Kai's Dao strength river. He knew that the mysterious river was condensed from Yang Kai's Dao strengths, but since it was a physical manifestation of Dao strengths, it could theoretically be damaged. Combined with his experience from fighting Yang Kai inside the universe furnace, he eventually came to a conclusion. Blindly dodging and retreating from an attack launched by Yang Kai's Dao strength river would only lead to a delayed death. Only by facing the attack head-on and striking at it with a mighty force could one defend themselves against him. Naturally, this was only a hypothesis and the actual results of confronting Yang Kai with such methods could not be confirmed. When Yang Kai abruptly appeared and launched a sneak attack on the 3 pseudo-royal lords, Mo Na Yi had swiftly rushed over to assist. At the same time, he also widened his eyes and observed the situation intently to verify whether his theory was correct. As soon as he saw the 3 pseudo-royal lords defending themselves against the Dao strength river with their combined strength, his heavy mood lightened considerably. Sure enough, his suggestion was effective. Yang Kai was not invincible after all. Having advanced to the 9th Order Open Heaven realm, Yang Kai was very strong. Nevertheless, the most threatening ability in his arsenal was currently his Dao strength river. The main reason the pseudo-royal lords in E5 territory had suffered such huge losses was that they had never encountered such a strange method before. With no means to defend themselves, they were caught off guard and suffered horribly. As long as the Black Ink clan had the means to suppress the Dao strength river, then Yang Kai's threat to the Black Ink clan would be reduced greatly. Needless to say, achieving such a feat would not be easy. Having 3 pseudo-royal lords working together to establish a battle formation was the minimum requirement. Oh! In the center of the battlefield, Yang Kai made an astonished exclamation as he observed 3 pseudo-royal lords before him. Although he was surprised by this development, he had to admit that their response was certainly the correct method to resist him. The approach of taking the offensive and advancing relentlessly had certainly suppressed his attack. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Mo Na Yi rushing towards him. The other pseudo-royal lords were also coming over to provide support. At this rate, it would not take long before he was surrounded, but even though the situation was very dangerous, Yang Kai showed no signs of panic. Wielding the Dao Strength River like a whip, he constantly brandished it at the three pseudo-royal lords. On his other hand, he suddenly raised his hand above his head and space principles condensed into a brilliant ball of light above his palm. Nobody knew what Yang Kai was planning to do, but looking at Yang Kai's actions gave Mo Na Yi an ominous feeling and he immediately shouted, "Kill him." In the next instant, a series of powerful attacks blasted out from Mo Na Yi and the pseudo-royal lords rushing over to help. These attacks landed unerringly in Yang Kai's direction. The space around Yang Kai suddenly became distorted, and under the impetus of the rampaging space principles, those attacks barged into the distorted space like uninvited guests. Then, an astonishing phenomenon occurred. The attacks that had originally been traveling at an extremely high speed suddenly became as slow as a crawling turtle after entering the distortion. They were still approaching Yang Kai, but at a speed that was hard to even see. At such a slow speed, even a 3-year-old child standing there could easily avoid these attacks. Fortunately, Mo Na Yi was very discerning. He could tell at a glance that the secret techniques thrown at Yang Kai had not become slower. On the contrary, it was the space that had become extremely distorted. Near distant horizon, this space secret technique might not contain any defensive abilities on its own, but it had great defensive effects. The void surrounding Yang Kai's figure was infinitely stretched out thanks to the manipulation of space principles. Even though the secret techniques continued to travel at a terrifying speed, they seemed almost frozen on the spot under the effects of the infinitely stretched out space. At the same time, Yang Kai abruptly brought down his hand that was held above his head earlier. Nothing seemed to occur, but be that as it may, the expressions of the three pseudo-royal lords facing Yang Kai changed drastically in the wake of the seemingly useless blow. A turbulent wave of fear surged through their hearts at that moment because their intricately linked auras, which had seemed indestructible previously, suddenly fell apart as though sliced by a sharp blade when Yang Kai's hand came swinging down. The Three Fortunes formation had been broken. The space-time river swept towards them in the next moment and unfortunately for them, they no longer had the means to defend themselves against the attack. Without the support of the battle formation, the pseudo-royal lords were no match for Yang Kai with their strength alone. One of the pseudo-royal lords was dragged into the depths of the river and disappeared quickly with a small splash. On the other hand, the second pseudo-royal lord reacted swiftly under the circumstances. As soon as he was caught in the currents of the river, he began to struggle desperately. Unfortunately for him, it was as though he was stuck in a quagmire and the more he struggled, the faster he sank into the raging waters. The third pseudo-royal lord turned out to be the smartest. As soon as the Three Fortunes formation was destroyed, he immediately turned tail and fled. Even Yang Kai could not catch the fleeing pseudo-royal lord in time despite his quick reflexes. At this moment, the barrage of attacks from earlier finally overcame the limits of his near-distant horizon secret technique and slammed into Yang Kai's body. A dazzling golden dragon phantom emerged from nowhere and coiled around Yang Kai's body. When the powerful attacks exploded, the phantom dragon dissipated and Yang Kai's body shook violently from the impact. A trickle of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth as a result. If it were any other Ninth Order master who bore the brunt of these attacks instead, they would inevitably suffer heavy injuries as a result. However, Yang Kai was a divine dragon. By relying on the physique of a divine dragon to protect him, he only suffered minor injuries from these attacks. That was an advantage that no other Ninth Order master enjoyed. The Dragon Clan stood at the top of the divine spirits after all, so it was only natural for them to possess incredible strength. Mo Na Yi was close at hand and a howl burst from his lips. "Yang Kai, why are you calling my name?" Yang Kai sneered and took a step backwards. At the same time, his figure suddenly turned into an illusory phantom and space principles fluctuated wildly. Mo Na Yi's fist landed on the illusory phantom, causing it to shatter. Unfortunately, Yang Kai was nowhere to be found by then. Yang Kai's laughter came from the distance. Who can stop me if I am determined to eliminate your pseudo-royal lords? Mo Na Yi turned and looked in the direction of Yang Kai's voice only to see Yang Kai standing at the head of the Dao Strength River. The waters in the Dao Strength River were turbulent, churning and roiling violently. At a glance, it almost seemed as though Yang Kai was standing on top of a dragon. It was a magnificent and majestic sight to behold. If there was no other external aggression threatening the Black Ink clan, Mo Na Yi would not have allowed Yang Kai to be so arrogant. Unfortunately, the human race army was pressing their attack, and there were still many universe worlds threatening to impact the no-return pass. Even now, Mo Na Yi was powerless to rescue the two pseudo-royal lords who were captured earlier. Yang Kai glanced at Mo Na Yi coldly, and then he turned around and plunged into the river. In the next moment, the movements within the space-time river became more turbulent. It was evident that masters were fighting inside. Just 10 breaths later, Yang Kai's figure appeared once more with a corpse in each hand. It was none other than the two pseudo-royal lords whom he dragged into the river previously. All the Black Ink clansmen who witnessed the scene couldn't help feeling a sense of sympathy for their comrades. The war had yet to begin in earnest, but the Black Ink clan had already lost two pseudo-royal lords. While there were indeed many pseudo-royal lords, their numbers would not be enough to endure for long at this rate. What happened next terrified the Black Ink clan even more. Yang Kai held up the corpses of the two pseudo-royal lords in a demonstrative manner, then he casually tossed them aside and withdrew the space-time river. In the next moment, his figure vanished out of sight once more. The pseudo-royal lords were in mortal danger, and the realization caused a chill to run down their backs. Moreover, they all now felt that Yang Kai was watching them intently from the shadows, harboring malicious intentions towards them. Contrary to the reaction of the Black Ink clan, the morale of the human race army increased sharply after they witnessed Yang Kai infiltrating the enemy camp alone and reaping the lives of two pseudo-royal lords. The attacks shooting out from the human race army and towards the no-return pass became more vicious and concentrated as a result. Furthermore, the human race masters all rolled up their sleeves and prepared to display their respective talents on the battlefield during the coming battle. The barrage of universe worlds also continued. Even though most were destroyed en route, the efforts of the human race army to suppress the Black Ink clan forced the latter to allocate more of their energy towards their own defenses instead. In this situation, they were strong in will but weak in strength. They simply could not maintain their efforts to intercept the incoming universe worlds. Besides, none of the pseudo-royal lords dared to exert their full strength after witnessing Yang Kai's flashy demonstration. Every one of them held back slightly in case of any unforeseen circumstances. Mo Na Yi knew that they had fallen for Yang Kai's tricks. Yang Kai had not infiltrated the enemy camp alone to demonstrate his bravery. Rather, his main purpose was to distract the masters from the Black Ink clan. Despite knowing Yang Kai's intentions, Mo Na Yi could not force the pseudo-royal lords to ignore their own safety and go all out. There was no guarantee that Yang Kai would not attack once more if they let down their defenses. What seemed real could be fake, and what was fake could become real. It could be said that Yang Kai's attack had tied the hands of all the masters of the Black Ink clan. Yang Kai was the only person among the entire human race who could achieve such a feat. The defense line outside the no-return pass was created with the damaged great passes that were abandoned by the human race army in the past as the foundation, and a large number of artifacts had been constructed on these great passes, but the Black Ink disciples were not very adept at artifact refining. After all, those who were proficient in artifact refining generally contributed to the war efforts from the safety of the rear. As they rarely stepped onto the battlefield, they avoided the fate of being captured by the Black Ink clan and converted into Black Ink disciples. It was for that reason that the artifacts prepared in advance by the Black Ink clan were far inferior to those possessed by the humans in terms of both power and attack range. When the human race army first started approaching the no-return pass, the Black Ink clan masters in charge of operating the artifacts could only watch as the enemy marched forward. The defensive artifacts could be activated at any time, but their effects were extremely limited. It was not until the human race army entered the attack range of these artifacts that countless lights began to blaze from the abandoned great passes that surrounded the external perimeter of the no-return pass. Be that as it may, these attacks were nothing to the enormous human fleet. Aside from causing some slight trouble to part of the human army, they did not play an essential role in the war. It did not take long for the human race army to target and suppress them instead. Many gaps had appeared along the middle of the defensive line due to the constant collision of the universe worlds. When the last few universe worlds finally arrived at the no-return pass and detonated, the gap in the defense line only became bigger. At the same time, the human race army deployed a massive number of troops straight towards the gaps without the slightest hesitation. It was clear that they were aiming to use these gaps in the Black Ink Clan's lines to rout the Black Ink Clan's defense entirely. If they succeeded, then they could march right in and conquer the no-return pass without obstruction. The no-return pass currently contained all of the high-rank Black Ink nests of the Black Ink Clan. If the human race army invaded the no-return pass, the high-rank Black Ink nests would inevitably suffer extensive losses regardless of the outcome of the battle. There was no question that such losses would affect the production of more Black Ink clansmen as well as the healing of their masters. How could Mo Na Yi allow such a thing to happen? He immediately mobilized many masters and led the Black Ink army to intercept those invaders. Marshall Peak. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,